welcome to the Stranger Still podcast. I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Miles.
And welcome back to our 2023 rewatch of Stranger Things. We are following our 11 main characters of Stranger Things through season 1 through 4. We are on the last one. We've been waiting for 11.
Journey. What a journey. Stranger Things is all about the characters, and we saved the best for last. We saved the 11th for 11.
How perfect is that?
That is well, it was all part of the plan. The van flippin', meat flayer rippin', eggo snackin', roller skate shcmakin', pizza dough freezer piggybackin'. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 11.
Hey! Well done. That was a good one. I like the shcmakin' part. It's shcmakin' because he's talking about the risotto.
Yeah.
It's risotto shcmakin'. Oh, that's
oh
so good.
Man, 11. One of the characters that I'm most excited.
Before we go on, make sure to subscribe, share, and review us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Pretty please.
Now I can go.
I just had to ask nicely.
That is nice, and thank you for all the comments and stuff on the podcast.
You're welcome.
I don't know how to respond when you comment like on Spotify. We're old. I don't know how to respond, but I absolutely love it.
You didn't have to admit that. You could just pretend that you are really good with all of the things, but you know.
Yeah. But no, we love Stranger Things, and the whole point of the podcast is to share that love. You know,
exactly.
So if even one person is listening and finding, any enjoyment out of it, then it's worth it.
Yeah,
thank
you.
We would just have this conversation without mics.
And I would like to say, every time that you guys make any sort of comment, it just pumps us up. So thank you for that. So
11 is one of the characters I'm most excited to go through.
God, we've been waiting forever to get to her.
It's a tough one because it's not, it's like talking about Luke Skywalker in Star Wars or Harry Potter in Harry Potter. Themselves are kind of, less exciting than the characters surrounding them. Han Solo's more entertaining than Luke Skywalker. Ron and Hermione are more interesting than Harry Potter. And in this case, a lot of the characters we went through are more like traditionally exciting than 11.
Yeah. Well, because she's been such a focal point. I mean, every other podcast, if you guys have been listening from day one, I mean, we talk about 11 in every single podcast. So anything we say it's almost like a review. She's so well known. She's so well delved into already that it's just kind of like.
Yeah, we have to kind of make sure that this podcast isn't just telling the whole story of Stranger Things.
And we hope we live up to your expectations of us.
Because ultimately 11, the story of 11 is the community, or the story of Stranger Things is the community that comes around this little girl with superpowers who grew up in a lab that are giving her a chance at a normal life, and they battle the upside down along the way, but she's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
We'll try to stick to that. She is the heart. Yeah. Well, I thought Mike was the heart. She's the real heart.
Oh, that's true. She's the real heart. Mike's also the heart.
Also the heart.
But 11 is the heart too.
Yes. Perfect. All right, let's start it. Season 1. We meet 11 as the girl who can't have gone far. And she sneaks into Benny's diner for food. Benny gives her some real food, says she's got to talk, give her an ice cream. We see she's got a tattoo on her arm, the number 11. We see she has powers. She stops the fan.
Hold the phone. Yeah. We usually like to say spoiler alerts in the beginning, don't we? We haven't really been saying
haven't.
But I'm pretty sure.
No better time than right now.
There are some spoiler alerts going into this podcast. We are going through every single season. So
the title of our podcast is Rewatch. Stranger Still Rewatch. So it's on you.
Okay.
If you came to this.
So we hope you've watched Stranger Things already.
Great add-on.
Thank you.
She's got the tattoo, number 11. She stops the fan, sort of menacingly, and we're not sure what to think about this little girl. Are we meant to be? Do you think we're meant to be concerned about 11? Fearing her in these opening scenes?
I mean, I think it's certain that the Duffer Brothers, they were trying to confuse us here. Like, is she going to be bad? Is she going to be good? That intrigue is definitely there. It's also part of what hooks everybody to Stranger Things. So I think we are meant to be a little concerned. We're a little wary. We're not sure how it's going to play out.
And after seeing season 4, I feel like a little bit more context is provided, now that we've seen that she's, the LeBron James of the lab kids, she's the gifted one, she's the Babe Ruth, she's the Wayne Gretzky, we've seen that. You can almost watch season 1 again after seeing season 4 and start to almost identify with the danger that Lucas senses and the danger that the lab senses, because you know how powerful she is. Like, we're watching her struggle to crush cans.
Right.
At this point, she's stopping a fan.
Right. If she was bad, then she could have been very bad.
So we know that she's now we go back and watch this, we know how powerful she is and how, unequipped she is to be in the real world.
I will say it is a little weird watching, especially now that it's been so long, rewatching and remembering that season 1 is after she's lost touch with her powers and started to be able to reconnect with her powers again first time.
Right. It's 4 years after the season 4 flashbacks.
Yeah.
And she's really blocked that out as a traumatic memory. As we know, Nina lets her relive later so that she can finally come through that. But yeah, she's not at her full base. She's got that block in there. But we've played with it throughout season 1, definitely throughout season 2, and most famously through season 4, which is the idea that 11 might be bad. Right. She might be the source of it. But you've never bought into any of that.
No.
You've tapped into her base decency.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. Oh. Let's just move on because I have so much to say about this later.
Well, moving through the pilot episode of season 1, this episode may go a little over. The lab tracks her to Benny's diner, kills Benny. She's
Benny.
running through the woods, and she comes upon Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, who take her in, and they make plans for her to go around the house and reveal herself to Mike's mom, but she tells Mike she can't do it. She has to stay away from the bad men, and Mike and her develop this immediate trust.
Yeah, from the moment they meet, really.
Mike sees the good in 11. I have a question, though. How does 11, from her perspective, she grew up in a lab without a lot of company in the last 4 years, since they all died in 1979. How does she sense the good and trust in Mike?
Well, if we had just watched season 1, maybe it would be a little harder to see. I think I would look at it differently, more as an innocent young girl that's scared and alone that is just latching onto the first person she sees. However, after watching season 4, we know she's grown up with other kids. We know that she's well acquainted with villains. I mean, there's the mean kids that bully her in there. So she's been around that. I think even subconsciously, she's able to identify the good in somebody by this point.
She's not a feral wolf, basically, who's been living alone. Yeah. She has some...
Yeah, although if we had just been watching season 1, how would we know? I mean, I remember talking about this before we even saw season 4. We didn't know. We thought it was just her and Dr. Brenner, and that she really didn't have all that social interaction.
Yeah, and I mean, the bullies and stuff like that doesn't seem like enough. They were all prisoners. To me, this is the magic thing of Stranger Things. You're underselling it here. The fact that 11 can find any trust and love in somebody is amazing.
Yeah, after everything she's been through.
Considering what she's been through. They always every character description that you read of 11 says she defends the one she loves. I want to say, how does she know how to love? There is something ingrained in her. There is love ingrained in her, in the fiber of her being. That's the magic of the story.
I agree. And that right there is why I knew she was never bad.
Yeah. You've been on it. You have been the whole time. You've never
she could not be bad
at any point thought that 11 was going to turn heel. As
no
they say
way,
in the
Jose.
So we're seeing, as we go through season 1, she's with Mike, the friction with the party. We're seeing flashbacks into her recent life in the lab in 1983, struggling to crush cans, being told to kill cats. Killing guards.
Was it cats or I thought it was a bunny rabbit?
No, it's a cat. Oh. And she's killing the guards. She's spying on the Russians. touching the Demogorgon, and that opens up the gate to the Upside Down. We're seeing all those flashbacks. She's split up from Mike and Lucas and the whole big fight of season 1, which we talked about a million times. She comes back to save Mike, who jumped off the quarry, breaks the bully's arms, and she reveals to Mike that she opened the gate and she's the monster.
Mike, I'm sorry. Sorry? What are you sorry for? The gate. I opened it. I'm the monster. No, Ellie, you're not the monster. You saved me. Do you understand? You saved me.
So right here, she's talking about, she feels like a monster because she caused the rip. She opened that rip into the Upside Down. But I think it also comes from, I think she has known this whole time that her powers are being developed as a weapon. And that to her, it already makes her feel like a monster because she knows that her powers are meant to hurt other people.
So she just knows it feels wrong.
Yeah.
What she does, she's like a tool to hurt people.
Exactly.
Mike gives her complete, direct love here. A little taste of what she ultimately and desperately needs, which he doesn't do in the subsequent seasons. He starts to get right here. He says, "No, you are not a monster. You saved me."
Right.
That's like the one morsel she has to hold on to. Her birth with her mom's being happy that she's born,
and then
Mike saying
10 years later.
It's like the only two pieces of love that she has gotten, and she needs it. And I'm just struck watching this scene, having watched season 4 and Mike's later, real teenage behavior where he's, afraid of being a poor man's Lois Lane and all that stuff.
Right.
He's not delivering this to her after season 1.
No.
And she is desperate for it. And yeah, it's just really why season 1 is a masterpiece is because she gets it here.
God,
and this
so good.
Ultimately is what drives her through the rest of season 1.
Right.
The lab eventually figures out that 11 is with these kids, and they send the vans out to the house, and they're going to kill these kids on bikes.
I know, they're going to kill these kids.
Seem like it. 11 flips one of the vans up into the air. Woo! And that's the first, I guess we saw her open the rip.
God, that was the coolest moment. I still remember watching that for the first time. We were just like, oh!
I wish I wouldn't have seen it in the trailer. I saw it in the trailer, and so I knew once they got on bikes, I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't watch trailers, people. Of course, we will watch all the
Of
trailers.
course we will. There's no way we're going to be able to wait. We've already been waiting so long for season 5.
Production just started, a couple weeks ago.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah. So she joins up with the kids all join up with the teens and Hopper and Joyce and everything. The whole gang's together as we come towards the climax of season 1. 11 goes into the salt bathtub in the gym, finds out that Barb is dead, finds out the Will is living, and they say, "Okay, thanks for the information. Wait here." And she's just left in the middle school. She sets a snowball date with Mike, and the lab finds them again. Now, she doesn't know it's because Hopper gave the location. Right. She kills more agents, blows up 6 of their heads like little watermelons.
God.
They're all dead right in the hallway of the middle school. And she faces the Demogorgon, corners them into a classroom, and she's weak, but she finds something to save Dustin, save Lucas, save Mike, and she dissolves the Demogorgon against a chalkboard. For all we know,
she
disappears. Do you think 11 was committing a death sacrifice?
I mean, maybe, but I think in that moment, she wasn't thinking about that. It didn't matter to her. Her thoughts in that moment were to save her friends. Again, the only other love she's ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And that was important enough to her that she didn't even consider the consequences. Also, I mean, maybe it's possible that subconsciously she already knows that she could access the Upside Down and not die. So I don't know.
I think she is. I think she's they didn't know that they were going to write, when they first wrote it, they didn't know there were going to be subsequent seasons. And
Okay.
check out our What If Season 1 Was All There Is podcast. I think it's from March. And I think that the ending of this little girl who lived in a lab, who got a morsel of love and intuitively knew to trust these kids, and then saves them from what she perceives as something she caused, and she disappears and dies. What type of tragic story? It's like Shakespearean tragedy level. It's like it's a masterpiece of a
really
movie.
is.
And you're left to wonder, like, who was this girl? Who could she have been? It's super sad.
Right. And sorry, go
But the
ahead.
gem of that masterpiece story is still there.
Yeah.
Because 11 thinks she's doing that. 11 thinks she is sacrificing herself for these 3 kids who she's only known a week. The goodness in 11 is just inherent in her. And it's another reason why she can never be bad.
God, I've totally blown it on this question. I would
I
just
thought
like to
this
point
was-
that out.
I was teeing you up
because
for this.
normally this is where I would excel. I'm the feeler. You're like the more logical, technical guy. But I think I just got too caught up on the other seasons, and I forgot. First of all, I forgot that they didn't really think about that there was going to be other seasons. So they didn't really know what was going to happen next after this. And also, I remember watching this season, and my favorite thing about it was that it could be a complete standalone.
It could.
And it didn't have to have more seasons. It could have been by itself and would have been amazingly epic. Of course, we were so happy to get more because it was so amazingly epic. But yeah, I forgot that. So, like, taking that into account, everything that you said makes way more sense than what I said.
Well, someone clip that and save that.
Okay.
That's the first time.
Can we just edit that out?
No, you are usually the feeler.
Right.
I just think what 11, I just have such a soft spot for 11. I feel
how could you not?
how could you not? But there are people who say 11 is a dull character.
What?
Yeah.
How dare they?
I mean, she's not very vocal, and she's not like making quips like Dustin, and she's not got the emotional depth of Joyce and Hopper, but she's absolutely amazing.
She
she's-
is amazing. She's
she's-
got freaking superpowers for one.
And she's acted to perfection. Millie Bobby Brown this show doesn't work.
If you didn't have
literally
her.
everything could be the same, but if it's not Millie Bobby Brown, I don't know that Stranger Things quite hits.
I 100% agree with that. The reason Stranger Things is so good is 1, the writing, and 2, the casting.
Yeah.
That's why it's so good.
Well, we're at 18 minutes and we're just getting to season
Oh,
2.
golly,
So this
okay.
is going to, all of our other episodes, all 10 previous episodes, check them all out, by the way. We went through the other 10 main characters. They were all 45 to 49 minutes. That was our range. I don't think...
We're 20 minutes
Yeah.
in, and almost 20 minutes in, and we still have 3 seasons to go. Hey, we did think that this was probably going to go long. I mean, we are covering 11. For goodness sake, come on.
Maybe the fact that we thought it was going to go long is why.
Is why,
this is
we
happening.
manifested it into an existence.
Self-fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy. All right.
On to season 2.
Season 2. 11 is on day 327, living in a cabin with Hopper. We know that because she's counting the days. She's
Right.
following these rules that they've set, the don't be stupid rules.
Yeah.
And Hopper is letting her down. He lets her down on Halloween, says he's going to be there, and he doesn't make it in time. She goes out in the daylight the next day. She comes back. Hopper is absolutely pissed because she's not supposed to go out in the daylight. They have a fight. She says, "When can I leave?" He says, "Soon." She says, "When is soon?" He destroys the TV. She shatters the windows. The usual father-teenage daughter fight. The next day, she finds Hopper's files on Terry Ives, Mama, and she runs away.
The way you said mama.
There was a weird way. Almost like I was going to go into mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. All right. This fight, we talked about this from Hopper's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is 11 being impatient, or is she right to be frustrated with this year in this cabin with the core question, when is soon? When can I begin a life?
Well, first of all, of course she's impatient. I mean, but you can't blame her for that. We actually have a real life like relatable instance to this.
Really?
We recently had a baby, and
Oh, yeah?
I was in the hospital for 5 days, and by that last night, my wonderful husband here, co-host, had enough, and he was ready to go home and felt like we were maybe a little bit locked up by that time. So that was 5 days. She's been in this cabin. Understandable. She has been in this cabin for a year, and Hopper has given her no discernible timeline as to when she can leave. All he keeps saying is soon. So, I mean, how would you feel? So I think she's impatient, but it's justified.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, we've talked, again, with all the 11 stuff, we've talked about it before. She needs to experience the world.
Yeah.
He's treating her like a commodity put in protective bubble wrap.
Right.
And she needs to get out there. You can't hold us here. It's not a prison.
And those may have been the exact words that my husband used.
Like 11, I merely inquired, if we leave, are they going to kill us? You know, what's going to happen? Very fun. Thanks for bringing that up. By
you're
the way.
welcome.
He's now 4 months old, everybody. We do not have a newborn just hanging out now.
We could not podcast with a newborn.
No. But Hopper also has a point, which we've talked about as well, which is he's not just doing this protective bubble wrap because there's not a threat. There actually is an actively staffed building full of people who would like to capture her.
Right. And so it's understandable that he's doing that.
So there's just this friction, and what happens ultimately is the right thing to happen. 11 has to take the risk. She has to. And we're saying the word intuitively a lot, but that's 11. It's all about intuition. She doesn't have the real world past to go off of. She intuitively knows that.
Yeah.
And she's got to go on her journey. She finds her mom, finds out her mom was lobotomized, kept a special message in her brain for her to tell 11 that, what happened. 11 decides that she's got to go find her play pal, 8, in Chicago.
Her play pal.
And she finds her, and Callie and the gang, and they have this, she finds out 8 and this ragtag gang of stereotypical 80s people are on a vagabonds are on a revenge quest against lab personnel that they find. 11.
Well, she's on the revenge quest. They're just
why are they with her?
I think she helps them
get money,
steal stuff, and get money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 11 is gonna be a part of that, but ultimately she cannot go through with it, and she leaves Callie. The Lost Sister is a controversial episode, of course, but what does it do for 11's story?
I mean, it gives her character, it gives 11's character an opportunity to build a stronger relationship with Hopper. We see that when she comes back. But not only that, though, it also gives us as the audience that contrast between the power of hate versus the power of love. Yeah. And honestly, to me, the biggest theme of Stranger Things is love, and that love conquers all, that love is strength. 11 becomes much stronger because of her love for Hopper and her friends, because of her mother's love. Where has Callie's thirst for vengeance gotten her? She's a fugitive. She's homeless. She's on the run. She has no close relationships except for with 11, who leaves because she knows that what she's doing is wrong.
Yeah, and ultimately, I completely agree. 11 has to leave.
Yeah. And
she has to choose to come back. We've talked about this before. I mean, that's critically important. Otherwise, season 3, season 4, and season 5 are all just various types of prisoner that 11 is. She's got to choose to come back, which is funny because she says, season 2, she says home a bunch of different times. Like when she's at the cabin, she's like, home. When she's at Aunt Becky's place, she's like, home. When she's in Chicago with Callie, she's like, home. And then finally, the 4th time when she's with Hopper and Mike, she goes, home, without a question mark.
It's no longer a question.
Yeah, and I love that. This is just, Stranger Things always has nice, simple touch points, and I really like that.
Yeah.
But love, I think, is I have notes here, but love is even better. Callie is 11 without getting any morsels of love. This is what 11 could be.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in Kali's face when 11 is running away. She has something to run away to.
Yeah.
And Kali is like, I don't.
And you can see the loss on her face when 11 leaves too.
What acting from 8 there. It doesn't get talked about enough because it's part of an episode that's much maligned. But do you think we get Kali back in season 5?
I mean, I hope that we do, because otherwise, like, what really was the point? Yes, we did gain a lot. We just kind of went over what that adds to 11's story. But they could have achieved that in different ways. It would just be so weird to not have her come back, in my opinion.
I'd be okay without her back. I mean, I think that's
I have wanted her to come back.
Maybe she could come back, but maybe to serve the same purpose, to show what 11's life would be like if she didn't have these Herculean efforts of love from Hopper and Joyce and Mike and Max and stuff.
See, I was looking at it as like 11 is the reason she comes back. She comes back because of her love for 11.
Okay.
Obviously, by this point, season 4, it's like common knowledge to the world. The other people in the world have got to know what's happening in Hawkins by this point. So I think she senses that 11's in trouble and she comes back, and maybe as even a casualty of season 5. You know, she dies, but it's in the sake of love, which she learned from 11.
Well, we shall see. I'm excited for that discussion as we lead up to season 5. So 11, she chooses to return to Hawkins. Perfect timing, because the whole gang is in the buyer's cabin or buyer's house, about to be killed by a gang of demo dogs. She makes quick work of them. She reunites with Mike. She reunites with Hopper. They realize that they do this plan to get Will's instructions out of the Will flayer. Close gate. 11's like, I can do that.
Right.
Hopper's like, I'll take her. And along the way, in the Bronco, they have
the bitchin' conversation.
One of the ultimate conversations, the bitchin' conversation.
I've been stupid too.
I guess we broke our rule. I don't hate it, by the way. This whole look. It's kind of cool.
Bitchin'.
Okay, sure. Bitchin'.
What a great conversation. Two great actors.
Amazing scene.
Yeah, great writing. One word sentences pinging back and forth. A man, a man, a man, a truck, a truck. Just amazing stuff. One thing that you forget this, but between season 1 and season 2, as you were getting hyped for season 2, you're wondering about Mike and 11 and how they're going to reunite. You have no idea at that point, 2016, 2017, that the depth of a relationship that you're going to care about between Hopper and 11.
Right.
That comes in season 2.
I mean, especially because he kind of sold her out to the lab.
Yeah. All you see is him putting Eggos in a box. Like, where they get to in that relationship and going forward is amazing.
Yeah. I just think this is such an important character development scene for 11, because even though obviously she has superpowers, so she's super strong and whatever, she's kind of been this like lost, scared girl. But season 2, we've really watched her start to grow up and become her own person. Like, up to this point, her whole life has been controlled by one man, Brenner. And then it's looking like that's going to be the same thing with Hopper. Obviously, he's got, genuine love. Like, he actually cares for her. He's
just
trying
a
to
nicer
keep her
warden.
Yeah, but it's looking like it's going to go the same way. And then she finds out Hopper lied to her about her mom. And so she's lost all this trust. But then he opens up to her in the car. They have that real conversation. And I think this is the moment that Hopper really becomes her dad.
Yeah.
And that for her knowing that she has Hopper there for her always, that unconditional love, it acts like an anchor in her life. And it brings her back to that love and her friendship and her relationships.
Yeah, there's love there now.
Yeah.
It was like a relationship of convenience for both of them.
He was like a guardian before.
But then now there's love. Well, they get there and they close the gate.
Ayo.
She does that. Hopper's
She's
shooting down
badass.
Demodogs as 11's just using her powers to close that gate as the Mind Flayer's like, no, staring at them. The lab is defeated. The Mind Flayer is defeated. And she's got to wait 1 year in the cabin to lay low. That's her reward. Though Hopper does grant her one night to share a dance with Mike at the Snowball, which is a scene that
It's so cute.
we absolutely love. We're
Yes.
pro Snowball.
We are pro Snowball.
You want to go to season 3?
I'm ready for season 3.
Season 3. Puberty comes. Mike and 11, they've crossed the bridge from preteen like connection to a more of a hormonal.
And this was a fun one too, because we have all the like fun nostalgia of the 80s,
Yeah, I
which
love it.
seems very young as well, which is
Yeah.
perfect for them growing up.
Perfect, like two things to combine.
Yeah.
They're making out a lot. They're keeping the door open 3 inches. Unbeknownst to 11, Hopper is so sick of this that he scares Mike into taking a step back for a day. For Hopper's sanity, Mike decides to go through a whole lying charade. So 11 goes to Max. Max is like, we could solve that, or we could just do something else, which I love. And they go to the mall. And 11 starts to build a connection with someone else, which is Max.
And it's so important.
Well, yeah, why is that important?
So I think 11 is slowly realizing through her connection with Max that there are more types of relationships that can be important to her. Because by this point, she has Hopper, the dad, and Mike, the boyfriend. They're both kind of protector roles, male roles in her life. And here comes Max, this strong, independent friend, and she shows 11 that really there's more to life than just boys. She shows her the power of independence, the power of identity. I mean, Mike puts them in their own private bubble. Hopper wants to protect her from the world, basically. But Max shows 11 that it's important to experience the world. She should have interests. She should have fun. She can be her own person. It doesn't have to revolve around somebody else.
And that's that next aspect. That's why no one person could have given 11, the life that she's getting after growing up in a lab. Max adds that important element. The Max and 11 Madonna, parody at the mall, that's like probably the happiest moment of 11's life.
Yeah, the most fun she's ever had.
Because even like her super happy moments are all mostly caged with violence. Like she destroyed the gate. Yay. It's like all those things are like still her using her weapons. This
Right.
is more, like you said. So 11 is hanging out with Max. She's slowly growing concerned about Billy after a game of powered spin the bottle goes wrong. I don't know,
Supernatural spin the bottle.
The boys, Lucas, Mike, after she dumps Mike, they connect back again with the girls, and they all figure out, with Will's help and everybody, the Mind Flayer is back in the form of Billy, who has been flayed. They find that out from the sauna test. They have this whole battle. 11 is just throwing herself. She's got bloody tissues all over the place. She's throwing herself into finding the flayed, into finding Billy. She's having this conflict with Mike, who thinks she's going to exhaust herself. She's having this conflict with Max and Mike. They're fighting. 11 says, trust me. She goes to find Billy, who's just sitting there. And he grabs his arm. And
Her arm.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Billy grabs her. You're right. Billy grabs 11's arm, sends them to this place, which is Billy's mind. 11 learns from that a little bit about Billy, walks into the storm, back into the room. It's empty. And this is where what we think is the Mind Flayer at the time, now know is Henry Vecna Creel, says he's building an army. It's all for you. And you're going to destroy the whole world, starting with you. This is a chilling scene. It was chilling when we saw it in season 3. Now that we've seen season 4, we know the whole Vecna 1 Henry backstory. How does it change the viewing of this?
I mean, it makes it a lot more personal. I mean, when we were first watching this, to me, I'm thinking this otherworldly evil that has identified this power in her and is thinking like, I can use her. She is the ultimate power that can bring me to the world so I can take it over. But then finding out that it's Vecna, Henry, one, she has a past with him, and it's really more vengeance. He's doing it all for her so that he can come back to this world and create it into the image that he thinks it should be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The personal aspect of this. When I was rewatching it, I couldn't help but I'm so happy it fits. Because there's so much in Stranger. We joke about the Upside Down as what is the Upside Down? It's just whatever we needed for the story. But when you're listening to Billy, the actor who plays Billy, talk to 11 in this scene, he sounds like Vecna. He sounds like Henry. And I was reading about that. The actor who plays Henry Vecna 1 said Jamie Bauer Campbell, he modeled some of the speech after the performance from Dacre Montgomery and Billy. So that was on purpose.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it fits, and I love that. This is really the first thing. I agree with you. When we first watched it was an ancient evil. Now it's much more personal. What are you going to do?
It takes a little bit out for me.
It takes a little bit out from what we thought, and we keep repeating ourselves. We're on the 11th episode, people. It is a much better scenario for season 5.
Yeah.
I mean, how is 11 going to defeat an ancient evil and make that cinematically satisfying? Battling this being that's down there with emotion and vengeance and anger is going to be way better.
At least there's a focus.
Yeah.
I mean, better. I mean, okay, moving on. After that speech, they have a couple more tangles with the meat flayer. One in the cabin where she gets bit on the leg. At the mall, she's noticing her powers are gone. Yeah, she's losing some of that power. Yeah,
and at the food court at the Gap, she's got to run away like a plebeian without powers.
A plebeian.
Billy is able to overpower her, bring her to the altar where the meat flayer is gonna eat her on behalf of Vecna, take her powers and stuff like that.
Is he eating her, or
I think he's gonna tube her and take her powers or something, because he gets something from that bite.
Or control her somehow.
Yeah, exactly. He gets something from the bite.
Okay.
And this is gonna be more of that.
Right.
But she unlocks Billy, basically. Yeah. And Billy saves her long enough for Hopper and Joyce to turn that key and thwart the Upside Down yet again. Huzzah! How does 11... We've talked so much about the Battle of Starcourt, and it's so amazing, but how does she bring back Billy?
I mean, there's one thing specifically that 11 can identify most with, and it's a mother's love, because her powers were first strengthened by that first memory of her being born and feeling her mother's love. So when she saw inside Billy's mind, she saw the connection that he had with his mother, probably the only person who truly loved him growing up, which comparison there, I mean, that was her first feeling of love, and she didn't feel any more until Mike. Yeah. And then that was the last love that he felt, really, basically, because his father's dirtbag. So I think she instinctively knows that this is how to pull him to his humanity. That's where his humanity has been. Even though all we've really seen of Billy is the negative, deep down there is good. There is humanity there, and she knows how to reach it.
And is this just running up that hill for Billy?
Yeah.
We talked so much about it in the Battle of Starcourt episode that we did. Check it out. But it's not even just the memory of his mother's love. She is describing the way that he remembers it, because she's been in his mind, not just describing it in general. And that's powerful. That's running up that hill. That's what the power of music as well. In the absence of a Walkman, this is what she does, basically. Absolutely love that scene. It's my favorite part of all of Stranger Things is the Battle of Starcourt, and specifically this. I mean, it's the Darth Vader moment.
Yeah.
This is Darth Vader, who's a horrible person, does one small amount of good at the end, and 11 is Luke Skywalker. And one of the reasons we look up to Luke so much, how does he defeat the Emperor? By deciding not to fight. And how does 11 defeat the Mind Flayer in this case? By choosing love. By choosing to focus on the good in this world, Mr. Frodo. Anyway, now we're really switching stuff.
But again, the theme of Stranger Things to me has always been love.
Mm-hmm. So the battle goes well. As I said, they turn the key. Unfortunately, turning that key, it did evaporate Hopper, at least so we think at this point. Joyce is distraught. 11 is distraught. The Byers family is in shambles. They're gonna move to California, and 11's going with them. And that's season 3.
Boom.
Season 4.
Here we go. The final season, the final Stranger Things that we got to experience until we wait for this
Season 5.
final season.
Nicely tied. So season 4 opens. We're about 9 months after the Battle of Starcourt, and the first thing we see is 11 reading out her letter. She's at first describing things that actually happened, and eventually reveals to be some lies to Mike. She's saying she fits in at school. She's saying everything is great here, and she carries those lies in person when Mike comes to California. She's trying to pretend like Angela's her friend and stuff. 11. What's up with the lying?
I mean, I think that's realistic as to how somebody would react in her situation. Obviously, superpowers aren't real. But so her identity has been as a superhero. Her life has always revolved around her powers, even though she might not have always looked at them as a positive. She certainly does now. But she loses her powers and she basically loses her footing in life. She's so lost. She's not only that, but she's lost the only good father figure she's ever had in her life. Yeah. So, and then her home. So she's moving away from everything that's ever been good and having to start over. And that, I mean, the insecurities that she's feeling, I think she doesn't want Mike to see that. Ironically, because she fears that Mike will no longer want her, which is ironic because Mike has the same thing. So
I love that, how Mike was lying to her throughout season 3.
Yeah.
11's lying to Mike throughout season 4. As a upside down fighting team, they're like Captain America and Black Widow. They're like brilliant fighters. But as boyfriend, girlfriend, they're like realistic teenagers.
Yeah, super realistic.
They're lying to each other out of, as you said, out of fear and uncertainty and, the shakiness of just growing up in this world, man. It's hard enough for her.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that he won't tell her that he loves her. Mm-hmm. And that causes insecurity in her. But the reason he's not telling her is because he's insecure. Yeah. That's such a young teenager thing.
Absolutely. And it fits perfectly. Yeah. And it's so, two things can be true at one time. They're great at fighting the upside down. They're shaky at their relationships. Yeah. So when Mike gets there, she's bullied by Angela, who we already saw bully her at the school. God. And she gets the whole skate deck bullies her. She retaliates by shcmakin Angela with the skate attack.
Some of the funniest conversations are post skate attack.
And tensions between her and Mike, continue to grow here. Mike saying seemed like that was a lot. You've been lying to me. And of course, then 11 spills over with what has really been truly bothering her, which is every letter is signed from Mike.
From Mike.
And she's thinking, it's because I'm a monster. I'm not a superhero. I'm a monster. You're afraid of the monster. These tensions don't get resolved because 11 is then arrested.
Yeah.
And then,
oops.
And then the police convoy is then overtaken by Owens. And Owens says, I got an idea. Let's go to a place called the Nina Project and get your powers back. And this is after a whole speech in an episode titled Superhero or the Monster. It's a series-wide theme for 11. It's in we were just talking about it at the beginning of this episode because she tells it to Mike in the quarry scene in season 1.
Theme
I'm a
only
monster.
second to love.
The theme second to the love theme. But there's something there. Every success that she's had in her life is violence.
That's
her
true.
being wielded as a weapon in a good way. And that's all her success. She even tries to solve, her skate attack or her Angela thing with violence.
Right. I mean, it makes sense that she would maybe think she was a monster, but we know, we have known this whole time that she's not.
Now, ironically, somebody who actually helps her get over this hump of obsessing about monster or superhero is Brenner. She goes to the Nina project. It's revealed that Brenner is alive.
Brenner!
And Brenner is the one who, after they're trying to jog her memories and stuff like that, he basically says, like, the world is more complicated. And that's what season 4 kind of is. It's 11 dealing in that gray. They're getting to be more and more adult here.
Yeah.
And, it's at the same time that Max in the Hawkins timeline is dealing in the gray of her, honestly, complex grief over Billy. So we kind of get these.
Please listen to our Max episode because,
yes,
God, that was a good one to delve into.
That was. And Max is, of course, both of our favorite characters. But yeah, both these things are happening at the same time. 11 and Max is just getting more complex, more adult. So in Nina, she relives her past as an 8-year-old, 1979. We are on the edge of our seats. Did she kill all the kids? Stay tuned.
No, she did not. I never thought that she did.
You didn't. They never had you fooled at all. Her traumatic memories were that Henry, or one who turns out to be Vecna as well, killed all the kids. And 11 defeated him by shoving him into the wall and banishing him to some other world, which we know is the Upside Down. All is well in 1979, at least for a little while. Back in 1986, now that 11 knows what happened, and she's dealing with the threats that are present to that timeline, to the end of season 4.
She's ready to leave.
She's ready to leave. Brenner traps her in that Nina room, and they have the blowout dramatic conversation.
If I was the monster. Now I know the truth. It is not me. It is you. You are the monster.
God, this is such a dynamic scene. Holy crap. I mean, we finally have 11's self-discovery. She knows now that she's not the villain, and she's confident of that. Finally, we've known all along, and finally she's come to that. But then you have this back and forth. I mean, obviously we didn't listen to the whole scene, but if you go back and watch this, you have this back and forth between her and Brenner. Brenner truly believes that he's done the right thing. That's what makes this so good, is that he does not see himself as the monster, as the villain in this situation. And then he starts he plays these mind games with her. Well, I mean, that's what he does best, honestly. And you think for a moment that she's actually going to fall for it, that she's going to revert back to that young, insecure self.
Because we just saw her do that.
Yeah, but she doesn't. And she identifies every single reason why Brenner is the monster. But I think my favorite part about this is that final shot after he's tranquilized her. She's like thrown him up against the wall, and then she passes out and they both fall at the same time. He's looking at her like he sees her for the first time. And there's almost like this glimmer that maybe he understands that everything she said is true. Yeah.
It is a emotional, just layered conversation. I remember you watching the scene, you're like, wow, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
My favorite part is when he says, we can go back to being Papa and daughter. And she says, what about Mama? And he says, your mother was sick. She brought a gun into the hospital. And like, as I'm watching this, because 11 has been buying all of Brenner's crap the whole time.
Again, mind games.
I'm thinking like, what are you talking about, Brenner? And she finally goes, hospital? You think that was a hospital? Exactly. Like, it was a prison. Brenner's like, I mean, he lives in the gray, right? His ability to separate those things. And she's finally there. And this is obviously the most important character development scene for her.
Yeah.
This could have been a season finale type of thing.
God, yeah, it could have. I'm glad it wasn't, though. We got more after this. Thank goodness.
We got more of this, and we have all of season 5 to go here, too.
Yeah. I will say, I think them bringing back Dr. Brenner was one of the coolest things they could have done for this story. And it made that dynamic for 11's character that much cooler for it.
That was another thing on the rewatch that I was much happier about. The Brenner experience, rewatching it all in a binge, was much better.
Yeah.
than it was to watch it originally. Like when Brenner came on the screen in season 4, we had 6 years in between season 1 and season 4. But watching it all in a row when he comes back, all of it hits a lot better for me.
It does.
So the injection, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in season 4. She destroys an army, destroys a helicopter. Brenner dies, and they're going to piggyback from a pizza dough freezer because Max is in danger. And in the end, Eleven is in Max's mind, and Vecna has got her beaten. He's got both her and Max up against the pyres in the red soup mind world. And 11 is listening to the speech from Mike and finds just an extra level of strength to defeat him, similar to how she did in 1979 when he was about to snap her bones, and she finds that extra level of strength to defeat him. What is that? How does she take near defeat and make it into victory both times?
I mean, gosh, I've brought it up so many times in this podcast already, but it's love.
Yeah.
That resounding theme of Stranger Things. Love from her mother gives her the strength as an 8-year-old to send one into the upside down. And again, that love from Mike, it reminds her of her own strength. Yeah. Love conquers all.
So is this Harry Potter? I mean, you know a lot more about Harry Potter than me, but
right.
I've always heard, very smart people describe the real theme of Harry Potter is that Voldemort dismisses things like love and friendship. Right. Harry Potter embraces those things. And since they're similar, he has that edge of that little thing. I mean, that's all it is, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, yes, that is what protects Harry from Voldemort throughout the entire series. I mean, that's the reason he survived the Avada Kedavra that Voldemort threw at him as a little baby, as his mother's love. It created a spell on him to protect him.
Voldemort and Vecna get along great.
Oh, yeah. No, they wouldn't, because they both need to be the leader.
Oh, that's a great point. Great point. Yeah. They would probably not get along great. Ultimately, that is it. And 11 is like a vessel running on empty in terms of love she's received.
Yeah.
And Mike's unwillingness to say it has just been like leaving her without fuel, and he finally gives it to her. She had to go back to her birth to find love.
Yes.
That's all she had.
But that's her real superpower, is her ability to love.
To maximize her fuel. That's what I thought.
God.
Her real superpower is to maximize her love fuel. So she defeats Vecna. She sees Max has died. She starts her heart, and they drive back to Hawkins. And she reunites with Hopper there in a powerful scene at the end of season 4.
Oh my gosh. That was the real reunion. Thank you. Gosh, words are hard.
Oh man, I love that there was a long time between it two. You can go to the podcast, listen to our season 4
We were
summaries.
so mad. We were so mad that we had to wait the whole season for them to come back together.
And now I'm happy for it.
I know, right?
I think about how people will binge it in the future. I don't want people to see Hopper die at the Battle of Starcourt and then have Hopper and 11 back together right after that as they're watching. They've got to wait 11 real-time hours for that. I don't know.
I mean, them being able to instill that anger in us that they've been apart is part of why the show's so good, though.
Absolutely. That's part of it. I totally agree. Well, season 5 is upon us. There's a crack in Hawkins with billowing black smoke. What's in store for 11? What do you think?
Oh, boy. I really don't know. I mean, we've talked a lot about Will being the focal point of season 5. Go back and watch our character episode of Will. It's awesome. But we know 11 is the true star of the show. So her powers, they're going to be fundamental to defeat Vecna. So even though I think we're really going to be focusing on Will, it's all still going to come down to 11.
Yeah.
How that's going to happen, I really don't know. I know people have speculated that she'll die, but I am hopeful that they'll all survive. I mean, for just once, let everybody live.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the type of show that kills everybody.
No.
Will is the one with the most turmoil in his arc currently.
Yeah.
11 and Hopper, too. We talked about this. season 4 kind of closed their major arc.
Yeah.
You know, everything we just talked about with Eleven and Brenner, that was the big journey for her and her realization and coming to terms with what has happened to her. All of that is kind of done. And
Right.
Eleven's going to go into, and I'm sorry that I talk about Star Wars all the time. I hope people like Star Wars as well. She's going to go into her Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker mode, where Luke is now a calm Jedi who's got control of his powers, and it's kind of the coda to his arc. He is going to show us what it looks like to be a Jedi. In Eleven's case, what it looks like to be the person that she honestly had no right to ever be. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say right. She had no
right.
no real chance as a child escaping the lab at 12 years old of becoming this person. But everyone has combined to give her a real life against all odds. And we're going to see the fruit of that in season 5. I don't know that there's much turmoil within her or Mike or Hopper to go through in season 5. Will is the one that we really got to get to as in terms of emotional, like, just, I mean, Will's in hell right now.
I know, but it's so it somehow seems very fitting to end have the series finale be focused on Will, because season 1 was all about Will, but he was hardly in it at all, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
And it was like all 11. So now it's almost like, I don't know. I think he's going to be like the brains and she's going to be the brawn. She's going to be the brute strength to defeat Vecna.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the one that figures out how to do it.
I think Duffers, if you're listening, you probably already wrote the show.
Of course.
But just in case.
Yeah, we hear from them often.
when what are the Duffers' first names? Like Matt and
Mr. and Mr. Duffer.
Yeah, Mr. When we get our mail from Mr. and Mr. Duffer, and then we correspond back, we will of course be emphasizing what we just said.
Brother 1 and brother 2.
Yeah. Okay. Now I feel bad for not knowing that.
I know. I do too. Gosh. We'll edit that in.
It's just like an obvious over. It's like Matt and. Oh my God.
Now that you said Matt, I feel like, oh, okay. I was like, now that you said Matt, I feel like that's right.
Yeah. Ross.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would not. I was going to say Dave.
Dave Duffer.
Dave
All right. We're
Duffer.
getting a little loopy here. 11 full episodes. Thank you for doing this, Kathleen. Check all the episodes out. We also have reviews of every chapter.
Yeah.
And just a full round of applause to my beautiful wife, Kathleen, who
thanks.
recorded these episodes while pregnant.
Oh boy.
Then
yes,
had
I
a
did.
baby and is now
Finishing out our character episodes.
finishing out our character episodes with a 4-month-old baby. So bravo to you, my beautiful wife.
And you know, now I just have to say it's a little bittersweet. Now all we have to do is wait for season 5.
We'll be back for trailers, right?
Oh,
We
yeah,
gotta-
I
I mean,
mean,
we'll be back.
yes,
We'll be back.
back for little
Yeah.
episodes here and there.
But I mean, these have been so much work. We won't be doing any more of these.
I mean, we are just ready for season 5.
We are just ready, and it just started production. So
We got a ways to go.
it's the long wait,
Is it-
but it's the final wait.
Did I see somewhere that we're maybe getting it in Christmas next year?
I don't know. I mean, I've just seen so many dates everywhere.
Yeah.
When we had our podcast on Stranger Things Day 2022, I predicted that the show would come out about now. Of course,
And it's actually going to come out probably a year from now, right?
maybe more. Yeah,
Golly.
it takes a long time to produce this show. All right. Well, we're kind of stalling because we want it to be end at an hour to be
Yes.
nice, crisp hour.
And the show's great, and we love our characters.
And to account for time, my name is Miles.
And I'm Kathleen, and
Good night.
Good
night.